Gervonta Tank Davis continues to do what he does best and knock out opponents. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Cocky Sports. I'm joined by man Ray. We're talking all things Gervonta Davis, back in action, beating Frank Martin. Talk to me about the performance and what you saw from Tank.
Typical Frank. I keep on Mick.
Frank.
I'm saying Frank. The similarity in the pronunciation of the two names keeps on catching me off guard. But I feel that typical Tank performance is like early rounds, he's more patient, but credit to Frank as well. He was putting it on him, like he was getting good shots on Tank. His corner was telling him, I know you want to be patient and download data, but don't let him piece you up in there at times. And then I feel like as time went on, Tank got the relevant information that he needed. It started breaking him down. And then 8th round, he knocked him out. For me, which was a good fight on, Frank's part, I feel like he should go up to 140 now. But it was a good fight, good entertaining fight, good display for Tank as well. So I think for now, it's just more about what is the possibilities for Tank and how he grows boxing for the American audience.
One thing, we see with Tank Davis is slow starts, and then it materializes to the point where, okay, now I'm in control. Like he may sometimes even get his corner tell him, listen, you need to get these rounds now because you're down, and it lights up something inside it. I think what you saw in this fight was the body shots were constantly being worked. Like as a way to slow down Frank Martin, and then from there, what we saw was, okay, I've got you in the corner, bang, uppercut, the left, that was it, job done. Like you said before that he likes to give away rounds to download the information, but when we go that one step further, is that a strategy that can really work?
I think it can work, but it depends on the opponent. Because for someone like Loma, for example, who does the same, he's been caught out where it's like you took too long to,
He did against Teofimo.
Yeah, he done the same thing with Teofimo. Even you can argue the same thing with Haney, where you took too long to download, and then by the time, 6th or 7th round that you're ready, like you've given away half the fight. And then now you're on, the back end in a race against time to get the finish, because if you don't get the finish, you're losing on points. And I feel like with Tank, he's got a great equalizer in the fact that he's such a sniper of a fighter that I can afford to give away rounds, because I know that if I give you the touch of death, you're going down. And it's not like a Wilder situation where Wilder used to give away rounds, but it's like he wasn't a good boxer and he was just swinging and hoping. Whereas like Tank is actually a high level IQ and aiming and firing, in the words of Izzy. So I feel like he knows he can get away with that with some people, but I also think his team is smart enough to know the fighters that might be upcoming. So for example, Shakur Stevenson, where it's just like, listen, you cannot afford to do that with Shakur. So go in there and go on him as soon as possible. Be on the front foot more and don't let him, stay at range. So I feel like he's smart enough to adjust himself, but with fighters like Frank Martin, who just might be a step behind, he knows how to work the ring.
I was going to say, you've touched on two names there going forward that you see Tank Davis fighting. In terms of what we see now, in terms of the career trajectory, we always said that it was getting to a point where the big names need to be on there. We're at that point now. Mapping out for Tank Davis, where do you see his next couple of fights? And obviously there is the fantasy fight that we can look on a little bit in terms of Inoue, which I think it's difficult to make just for obviously the weight side of things in general. As a fantasy fight, is that something that could potentially materialize? Look, I mean, we say it.
To the Americans out, no. Listen. I'm sorry, people. Sometimes in life, dreams have to be crushed. To the predominantly Americans that are asking for this, and to others that might be in Crazyville with them, it is not happening. He's at 122 now? In a way, he's at 122 now, and he's filled out. It's not like he's hurting to cut weight to 122. He's actually quite filled out. The next, weight class would be 126, and even with 126, that might be in a case of like he is basically walking, fighting at walking around weight. 130, it's not happening. And I'll also say there's this. People forget, Gervonta used to struggle to get to 130 when he was
I
initially
remember.
at that division. Yeah. There was a time when, he was less disciplined between camps and used to put on weight. He was struggling to get up to 135.
I think there was one fight, sorry for going, one fight where I think it was for a world title.
Yeah.
And he didn't make the weight. And he goes, hey, my body just can't do it.
Yeah.
We're just going to win the fight.
So that Inoue fight, because some people have this weird thing of because he fights in Japan, it's not a real champion, which is stupid. But the Inoue fight's not happening. Let Inoue be great. Let Tank be great. You've got a guy, a generational fighter in Inoue, 2-time undisputed, might go up to 126 and do it as well. Let him be. He's there. I cannot see 130 in boxing is super featherweight. I cannot see him going up to super featherweight. For me, if he's smart, get paid at, he's at super bantam now, go up to 126 at featherweight. And once you've reached that cap, don't be Icarus and fly too close to the sun. Fly high, but not too close to the sun.
I was going to say, even if Inoue did, like, then the gap of the 5 or 6 pounds between him and Tank Davis is just not there.
And imagine then Tank putting on more size after that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw a tweet. It's funny because I saw a tweet. Someone said, well, Inoue has walked around at 134. And I was like, him walking around is me walking around at 160 if I wanted to. But if I'm going to get into the ring, I'm going to have to cut 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So I can walk and enjoy myself, but I can't fight at an optimal
Listen, I know that we need the casuals of the sport to grow. I know we need them commercial-wise so the fighters can get paid. But I urge you, some of you, please, you have to become more informed on the sport. Fighting, for most people anyway, fighting at walking around weight is not your optimum fighting weight. Only because for some people, unless, depending on how your build is, there's very few people that fight walking around weight. And those that do, it's only because their body type allows them to be in the best shape whilst they're walking around. Where some people is like, if you're not training to your max, your body's gonna go to your body's gonna fluctuate. I'm not saying on the Ricky Hatton thing, but even just a normal fighter, there's fight. Look at someone like Kamaru Usman, for example, where how he makes 170, I still don't know, but he's a big guy. Except for the only issue is at 185, he's not too big. At 170, he's massive, but he cuts down for a reason because at 185, you're going to have people that are massive there cutting down. Like the fact that Ferreira used to make 185 is scary in itself. But, so I say that to say this, in a way, walking around at what did they say, 136 or
5, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
There's no point. Listen, man, enjoy where you fight now. He doesn't cut too much weight to the point that it's unhealthy. But like we said, even at his current weight class now, is it super bantam now? He's not a big super bantamweight. He's not knocking out people like he was at bantamweight is where he was knocking out people left, right, center. At super bantam, he's not knocking out people like that because guess what? The more you go up, the more naturally big other people are, and the more punch resistance there is. The more your knockout power is not, you're not hitting people out of the park like you used to. So that Inoue and Tank, let's just respect two great fighters. What's that? Like inside Rio Ferdinand meme when it's just like, let's just appreciate these two talents.
I hear it. But let's talk about fights that can happen. Shakur Stevenson, Lomachenko, Vasily Lomachenko. Which do you see happening first? Which do you see is the right fight for Tank Davis to continue to elevate himself? And just talk to you about both fighters and where you think Tank's next playable move is.
Everything's going to be a domino effect. With the domino effect being, Shakur Stevenson's got a fight coming up in July, early July, which is the last fight of his top rank contract. So after that fight is how it depends how everything plays out. So there's many options. If Shakur wins impressively, he might want to make the Tank fight straight away, to which he'll probably sign with PBC, and then they'll have to do their own logistics of how they're going to make that fight. Whether they're going to sign Shakur and make him fight one more fight just to get his name out there and to build him a bit more, or whether they made that fight straight away, Depends on how impressive Shakur looks in his last fight. Then you got other options. Shakur could lose. Well, let's go for the least likely option. I can't see Shakur losing. If Shakur loses, then obviously Tank would then go to face Loma. Like, no brainer. Then you've got other options of Shakur winning, but you know, he might take time to see who he wants to sign for. Either way, Bob Arum is a shrewd businessman, and he's gonna say the person that he's got on contract for a longer term, being Lomachenko, that is the guy to cash out on, because Loma, you know, even though he became champion again near the end of his career, probably thinking, do you know what? It's probably time to cash out on him in regards to he's not in his prime anymore. He's in the twilight of his career. So yeah, why not make a, you know, pre-buck with PBC and make that Tank first Loma fight? The fight, me and many other boxing aficionados, not saying that I am one. I know a thing or two. I'm not an aficionado. a lot of people really want to see Shakur and Tank. That is the fight that we really want to see. Two of the perceived best at lightweight going at it. Tank's done his job now. He got the win in impressive fashion, got the knockout, you know, the fanfares after him as per usual. Shakur needs to go out there and put on a performance like he's never put on before, because he doesn't shy away from the light, but when the light's been on him, he's also been in a situation where he didn't perform to the best of his capabilities, and it doesn't work well for him PR-wise.
Do you know why I think potentially can happen with this? I think Lomachenko's going to be that piece. I think we're going to see Tank versus Loma, but this is the bit that's going to be stuck in the middle. I think before we get Shakur versus Loma, in the Shakur versus Tank, I think we're going to get Shakur versus Loma. I think we're going to be in a position where both guys will probably have to fight him to be able to be like, okay, we've got rid of that guy, but both have won, both have put on certain level of performances. One might be better than the other. Let's just make this fight.
That's another option.
I'm glad you said that. Settles, that happens. Yeah. But my only problem with that is, how long will that take? I know both are young. Obviously, Shakur's relatively more younger than Tank, I believe. But I do think it's just going to stretch a little bit. And I think one thing we've had an issue with is PBC fight is being inactive. And I don't want to go down that route where, again, we see him one time a year.
Yeah.
But I just want to quickly wrap up with star power.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say that is, look, as much as he fights one time a year, maybe sometimes, or sometimes we might get him twice, there is something about Gervonta Tank Davis where when he's billed on a card, he sells out, he gives pay-per-views. Like, when you look at Tank right now, taking away the pound-for-pound rankings in terms of boxer, really, is he the biggest marketable star across the board of boxing?
Far from, but what I will say is, in regards to Canelo and AJ, and you can maybe argue Tyson Fury, have been the stars of, like, let's say the last decade or so, especially AJ and Canelo have definitely been like the biggest stars of the last decade, and Fury kind of, kind of came in and paused near the latter half of the last decade. Yeah. So now, in terms of the new generation of stars, there's not too many, and Tank happens to be the one on the forefront of it. The issue with Tank now, though, is he's had a lot of fights to build up his profile. He's had a lot of, like, fights where we didn't care about the opponent. We just want to see you be fantastic. He's had those, and he's done well to perform in those. Now he's at a point where it's the same where Anderson Silva, as good as he was, he needed a Chael Sonnen. You needed that guy to get people to be like, yo, can this guy beat you? And the way Chael Sonnen talked and fought, yeah, like putting that bit of doubt where just like, oh, wow, he might be the goods. And I feel like Tank is in that place where he needs that rival to elevate to superstar status. The same way with AJ needed that Klitschko fight. He became world champion before, but Charles Martin fight was just like, but the Klitschko fight was the one where everyone paid attention. That was the star maker. The same with Canelo, even though it's controversial, both the Triple G fights was when it was just like, okay, he's the guy now. And then
I would say, I would
so
say Canelo was put into the limelight very early.
oh yeah,
Even technically from a fight point of view, he had 40 fights maybe when he
yeah.
fought Floyd Mayweather, but he took the money, and ran with it.
I think the difference is though with Canelo, similar to what we were saying with Tank. Canelo got into that point where, all right, we know you're impressive, but can you like jump the hurdle to be the superstar? As controversial the Triple G fights was,
The
he
superstar.
still became a superstar after it. And he became so much of a superstar that when he went to become undisputed at super middleweight, we didn't care as much about other belt holders because we just wanted to see Canelo be great. But then the same way now, Tank's at that point where it's just like, we need you to have your AJ Klitschko moment or that Canelo Triple G moment. And I feel like with a lot of people, Shakur is that guy where it's just like, that seems to be the end game of where people want to see, if you can beat Shakur, then the crown is all yours. And I feel like until we get that type of fight, Loma's got a bit of shine taken off him. It still be a good win, but the shine's a bit taken off because obviously Teofimo done it first. Then Haney done it, even though it might have been controversial for some. But then with everything that Loma's gone through in regards to personally, obviously with the war in Ukraine and, you know, being older, he was already older once he became pro, but now it's like, that fight is a good buffer, but it reminds me of Canelo when he was coming up. It hurt me to see it because he's one of my favorite guys. I remember like when he faced Miguel Cotto, and he beat Cotto.
It's a good name to have on the resume.
Very good name, because I think Canelo beat Shane Mosley on his way up. He beat Miguel Cotto on his way up. There's a few other names that miss me right now, but it's like Canelo beat some guys. Well, do we know they were over the hill? Yes, but that recognition of, oh, but he's still, you know, to the casual, they're like, oh, I recognize that name. Oh, swear down, he beat him. So it's the same way. I think that would be good for Tank in terms of like facing a Loma and beating him. But the Shakur Stevens fight, that is pure, that is machine for machine. If you're the real deal Holyfield, that's the fight that people want to see. Now I feel like it's just more on a commercial thing now where we need to see you commercially. We need Shakur to commercially match. You don't have to directly match what Tank's doing, but come to a point where people are interested in you, because right now Shakur's PR is not really the best, and we need to get that back up so that
I think that also comes with the machine, because we always say that there's something that the PPC machine just
they
works.
know how to make. They know how to make
to promote. They know how to make everything look glamorous
to their detriment at times, but they know how to make stars.
And do you know one thing I'll say about them is when they host an event, they might host very sporadic events.
Yeah,
but the venue is always very nice. I'm not going to say this in a horrible way. It's not bingo hall-esque quality or just a normal arena.
No, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
It's Las Vegas. It's MSG. It's wherever the lights are the brightest, PPC are there. I think one thing I will say about the fight that we want to see is, to your point about being the face of boxing and stuff like that and the biggest star, until we kind of wheedle out AJ, Canelo, Crawford, and stuff like that, I don't think PBC want to put that fight on because of that reason. They know what that can mean. And if they're going to do it, they're going to do it where it's going to do big pay-per-view numbers, but it's also going to put, hopefully, their guy in Tank Davis as the official face of boxing as well.
Now that he's full champion, because obviously before he was like the whole like regular champion stuff, whereas now he's the full champion, but obviously it is one of those ones where it's like we need
that's where Loma comes in. I think that's where Loma is.
The title victory that, it's like Frank Wine hasn't got a championship yet to be bragging about that win. The Loma win, not only just getting a Loma win, if you can finish Loma, that will be the biggest statement. But then, like I said, it all comes into effect where, because how I see this is, if Shakur re-signs with Top Rank are going to be like,
let me get Shakur and Loma in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know who Tank face first, or maybe Top Rank might say, do you know what? Because I don't know the other name, but there's another guy with a belt in the lightweight division that he just won on the last Top Rank card. So Top Rank might be like, okay, Shakur, you can face that guy. Let Loma face Tank, and then we can make you guys fight for the undisputed next year. So I feel like what can potentially happen either this time next year or late next year could be a big undisputed fight, but we need all the dominoes to fall into place. So we'll check in once Shakur fights and see how things go from there.
No, I hear it. Listen, guys, we're going to wrap up today's episode on Calf Kid Sports. Listen, you know the vibes, the content that comes out all the time from the team. Look, UFC 303 is coming up soon. Listen, I'm going to say this right now. Even though this is a boxing show, I feel like the card is way better than it was before. And I feel like Alex Pereira at this moment in time is the biggest star in the UFC for what he's able to do in terms of stepping up, stepping in. And he headlined 300 as well.
Listen, man. The guy, I'm so happy to see someone like him become a star because he doesn't have to be obnoxious. He doesn't have to be like arrogant. It's just like he's a stoic guy, nice guy, and he gets knockouts. And I feel like, and the fact that he steps up, him against Prochazka, this is where it hurts me. I feel like this is too soon, but for the fact that both of you are stepping up for a fight that fell through,
do you know what it is?
And at the end of the day, it's still F Chan anyway. Shout out my guy Dustin Poirier.
Do you know what it is for this fight? I know we're just deviating before we sign off. It's guys that I both like. I don't want to see either lose, if that makes sense, for the main event. And I'm just like, because everyone likes Yuri. Like, I don't think anybody doesn't like Yuri.
He's a samurai. He believed. Yeah. Listen, who was it again?
Just his last fight when he was on the prelims, and it was
and someone tried to say he's not a samurai, and he absolutely hurt them because he was just like, I am absolutely. Listen, that guy is who he says he is. That guy's a samurai, Bushido way, all of that stuff. He felt offended, and Yuri said, "You're gonna pay for saying that." So Yuri just goes in there. You saw that people take pictures of him like 3 a.m, just stand in front of the UFC, in the bright lights, and I was just like, both of them. I've got love for both of them, so it's gonna hurt to watch, but it is what it is. And Ankalaev, you're next. Word to Goldberg.
I hear it. As always, guys, before we wrap up, like, share, subscribe, follow the content throughout the entire week as well. Until next time, guys, love and peace.